our team is me, Habiba, Vu, and Ismari. The next slide, please. Okay, our project is to create a robotic arm that can help the workers in manufacturing. What we understood from this project that we understood the machine learning and learned how to build the body and how to use the 3D printer as the claw was 3D printed, and how to code on the Arduino. The next slide, please. Okay. The body was made of wood, plastic, and some metal screws. The claw itself was 3D printed using the Creality Ender 3. This is the 3D printer that we used while printing the claw. The material used was PLA shiny silver filament. The robotic arm includes about 3 motors, MG995. These motors were used to be responsible for the vertical horizontal movements and for grabbing the objects by the claw. We were controlling the movements of the body by using the Arduino Uno circuit. It was connected to a breadboard and it was connected by jumpers. The Arduino Uno was controlled by the computer using the Arduino Uno software. Next slide. Okay. Actually, we used the servo motors as it has a predictable and repeatable movement, and it has a range of its angles has a range that are that's 180, and it moves in 3 angles: 0, 90, and negative 90, positive 90, and negative 90. And we send the commands for the servo from the Arduino to get specific angle and move the hand and the arms as a whole in a specific angle. Actually, we can find the servo motors in many places, such as the toys and some home electronics, cars, and airplanes.
Okay, so the reason why we chose the Arduino Uno was because, as we've said before, I feel like it's just much easier to use. It's its software and hardware is actually very accessible. You can find all kinds of examples online as well, which is what helped us the most, is looking up some examples to see what other people have done and trying to figure out exactly how they work. It's also the most popular, so it's much easier to, like I said, look for the basics of it. It was compatible with the breadboard and the jumpers that we had. It was easy to assemble and disassemble. The Arduino Uno software is actually really easy to download and really easy to use, as well as, it was just like much easier to use something that a lot of people already, have. So the final body that we have, like as I said before, we 3D printed the claw using the Ender 3 printer. We chose the Ender 3 specifically because of it's much cheaper. Well, I already had the printer, but I didn't know how to use it, to be honest. I wanted to use it for another project, but we ended up using it for this project as well. The quality of the prints was pretty good for how cheap the printer was. And we did really have some problems with it sometimes, just because personally, I didn't know how to print it and I had the printer, so I had to print everything. And this is what the body turned out. We used wood. We painted it, and the housing of all the parts is in the little box, as you can see, and the cable comes out from the back. So like I was saying before, we did have some errors. So the original body that we created before was actually too heavy for the motors to lift. And so we decided that we were gonna make it smaller, and it is much smaller than the original model we had before. And it's less dense as well, because before what I had done was I had glued 2 pieces of of wood together, and I had used that all over the place, basically for the structure and everything. But what I ended up doing is just using those two pieces of wood glued together for the outside of the robot, and then the inside, which is the support structure, with only a single piece of wood, really thin wood that would just hold it down. Another problem we came upon was that the Arduino was not working properly. The arm wouldn't go all the way up even after we had lowered the density of the robot, and we found out that it was because it didn't have sufficient power. It Every time I connected it to my computer, it would use that power from my computer in the USB. So we ended up using a 5-volt battery and attached it to the circuit, and it ended up working much better after that. Then after, like I said, I did have some problems printing the claw. We had 2 failed attempts before we were finally able to print it out completely, because it kept warping the print, because we found out the bed was actually dipped in the middle, and they were telling me that the only way I could fix it was to get a whole new mat, like a whole new bed thing. And so we ended up fixing it by putting a little sticky note in the middle of the bed, and that worked out just fine. It's obviously like a very short-term solution, but it ended up working out just fine.
Hi, everyone. So talking about the final progress, I would say that the team is done building the code and the body. So we successfully uploaded the code onto the Arduino. So we also checks the compatibility of the code with the body, and also checks the accuracy of the angles in the code. And the process of building the arm and the code, it took us like 6 to 8 weeks to work on. Next, please. So we also updated the Gantt chart also to help it catch up with the deadlines, but so far everything is completed. Next, please. So here's the GIF of the arm. You can see it can be turning around, upside down, and throw in an object. Yeah, next slide, please. So in the conclusion, so the majority of the tasks have been completed on times as planned. The arm is able to perform some basic movements, as you can see, like upside down, turning around, left and right, hold the object, and move the objects from one to another places.